Alrighty, so I have everything up, so I'm gonna get this started so that we are not here all day, girl. Okay? Bueno. Alrighty. Okay, and I got this. By the way, this poem is going to be on page 15. I'm telling you now so you can get your stuff ready, all right? Bueno, buenísimo. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Sincerely Verolina channel. Hey, I am Sverolina. The S stands for several things, but you may call me Sovereign. S is fine too. You are now listening to the Things I Never Said poetry series. On this channel, I discuss personal development, relationship dynamics, and, in this particular series, my testimony as a foster child turned emancipated minor. Yes, so if any of those topics interest you or relate to you, then feel free to take a virtual seat in the comment section and engage with the video. During this podcast, I'm going to discuss a poem that I wrote called The Girls Across the Street. Now, this poem is in my collection titled Things I Never Said. If you would like to read along with me or to add the poetry collection to your bookshelf, then click the link in the description below. It'll take you to a page where you can purchase the book today. Bueno, vamos a comenzar. Bueno. Okay, so as I stated, this poem is titled The Girls Across the Street, and it is on page 15. I'm going to give you some seconds so that you can go pull that up. If you're on the Kindle format, then I'm really sorry. I don't really know what page this is on. I keep saying that, but I just want to remind you that it is available on the Kindle format. Si tú quieres, okay? Alrighty. Oh yes, the theme music for you to switch to your page. Let me do it really quick. Okay, so yes, as I said, turn to page 15. All right, I hope that gave you enough time. Bueno. This poem is called The Girls Across the Street. The girls across the street wore pastel pink shoes, so I asked for pastel pink shoes. My foster mother asked if I had pastel pink money. The girls across the street rode their bikes around the block. They played under the stars even after the street lights came on. They got what they wanted when they wanted what they had, and when I wanted the world to work like that, my foster mother asked if I would listen. She said, "When you start wanting everything, remember that nothing is as it seems, and sometimes something won't be what you need. It'll be someone, because everybody would take somebody over anything." The girls across the street. Come on, somebody. Okay. Thank you for listening to this reading of The Girls Across the Street. All right, let's all take a collective deep breath. Bueno. Alrighty, so I like to do the collective deep breath as a way to reset. I don't actually think you have to do it, of course. Do what you desire, okay? Bueno. You could take a sip of water if you would like to. If you would prefer not to breathe your breath into the air, that's fine. Go ahead, sip the water, girl. Sip the water. So let me just move this over really quickly. Bueno. So this poem titled The Girls Across the Street was a pretty fun one for me to write, at least compared to some of the others, of course. It was fun for me to include that pastel pink line. I really enjoy that one. And it tends to make people laugh when I have performed it. I like that line because I grew up with a foster mother who did have a bit of personality from what I remember and a sense of humor. And so that was kind of me poking fun at her sense of humor, or at least trying to represent it. Just like with the title, actually, The Girls Across the Street, I wanted to use this poem as a way to represent the appreciation that I had for my playdates with those girls. Those girls in particular lived in a house that I thought was so pretty. I'm not going to describe it too much because I believe that the house and the neighborhood is still intact to this very day. So I don't want to describe it too much. But yeah, I thought their house was so pretty and I thought their house was so cool. And I used to just imagine how beautiful their house must be because of how cool it looked on the outside. And I remember playing with those girls. I think they were Cuban or something like that, Cuban or Colombian or something. And they were pretty cool. I remember being admirable of them, and thinking that they had like a much better relationship than like me and my sister. Like these were two sisters, and me and my sister lived across the street, but we were not happy, or I was not happy like with my sister. We didn't have like a good relationship, nor a close one at all. So to see these girls have like a pretty house and to have like nice toys and all this kind of stuff, I admired them for sure. And I took note of it. And I think at one point I mentioned something about that something that they had. It probably wasn't pastel pink shoes, but there was something that they had that was pastel pink that I liked. And that's why I chose that specific detail of the pastel pink. And so the point of the poem was less about the pastel pink shoes they had, and it was more like in a general sense about how much I admired their life, or at least what it seemed like their life was. And I remember my foster mother having a conversation with me at some point in time about us being greedy and about us not being envious of other people. It was from my foster mother that I learned that there are people on this street who have more than us, and there are people on the street who have less than us. And so you need to appreciate where you are. That is a very important lesson that I learned from her and from the time we lived together. So honestly, I would say, for transparency, I don't remember her saying these words at the bottom of the poem verbatim, but I remember learning that lesson from her. And so I put it in that form because it's poetry after all. It doesn't have to be literal. This is not an autobiography, this is literally just poetry. And poetry is fun because you get to play with poetic devices and tell your story in a creative, artistic way and make the words or the subjects of the poem come to life with personification and other things as well. And it's pretty cool for someone who likes writing. So yes, I had fun with capturing the point of the poem, which is that you have to appreciate where you are, where you are going, and where you've been, because nothing is as it seems. And if you get too caught up focusing on what other people have and appreciating what other people have, you may lose the very things that you have, because if you don't appreciate something, it's easier to lose it, right? It's easier for it to get away. So anywho, the first question that I wrote down for a sense of structure for these videos is what moment or thing inspired the poem? And the thing that inspired the poem was the moment where my foster mother talked to me and the other kids in the house about being envious and greedy and asking for too much or complaining about not having stuff, because she was a working woman. My foster mother worked and her daughter was a grown woman, and she worked as well. But usually when my foster mother was at work, her daughter was home sometimes. And if she wasn't home, then I believe one of the older kids were left to watch us for a little while. But usually they would alternate, like who would be home with us and at what point in the day. And so, yes, I remember her talking to us about that. I think that one of the other kids may have expressed some frustration for not getting something, and that's what caused her to lecture us. And I just remember that it stayed with me. I remember going to our neighbor's house and like as a family, like for a birthday party or something. And I remember looking around at their backyard and seeing their trampoline, and they had a snow cone machine for their birthday, and I thought that was so cool. But I remember my foster mother's words being so vivid and so loud in my ear. And I remember her saying, like, there are some people on the street who live better than you and some people who live worse than you. And I remember being a kid and looking around and observing how people lived and thinking, wow, are these the people who live better than us? And are these the people who live worse than us? Is this what she's talking about? So yes, she planted that seed of gratitude and that seed of appreciation for whatever it is that you have in life that you like, and that you are happy to have. Appreciate it, because there may be somebody down the road, literally down the road or next to you, who may love to be in the position that you're in, just like there may be somebody up the road who's in a position you really wouldn't want to be in. So that leads me to question number 2, which is, what message did you want to convey with the poem? And that is this: when you start wanting everything, remember that nothing is as it seems. Stop wanting what other people have when you don't even really know what they have. Stop telling yourself that other people's lives and other people's filtered and doctored realities that they post on social media is the ideal, because you do not know that. Also, the other part of that quote, which is, sometimes something won't be what you need. It will be someone, because everybody would take somebody over anything. Now, that quote is actually connected to a deeper thought that I've had since I was a kid. Since I was a kid, I used to think, if aliens came down here and forced us all to line up and they told us, go to your people, where would I go? When I say the aliens lining up and forcing us, I want you to just imagine, if you've ever seen that Marvel Avengers movie, I believe it is Infinity War. It is, I think, the scene in Infinity War where Thanos, the big gray guy, goes to the green girl, Zoe Saldana's, I forget what her character's name was right now, unfortunately, but where he goes to her planet and he finds her there, he sees her and meets her as a child, and he has all of his soldiers gather the people in the, oh shoot, I just realized maybe I shouldn't say all of this. Maybe somebody hasn't seen that movie. I mean, it's older, but maybe I shouldn't say this. Okay, I will try not to spoil it for people who have never seen that movie before, because it's a good movie, and I like to watch the Avengers movies like every once in a while, even though I've seen them. But yes, I won't spoil too much, sorry. But what I will say is, there's a scene where well, I already said it. So Thanos, he goes there and his people line up some of the people on the planet. And I'm not going to say anything else about what happens, but just imagine that scene where everybody's standing around and they're all facing each other before what happens next happens. So I used to think about that as a kid, but obviously I didn't see that movie at the time. That movie is from 2014 or something like that, or 13. But yeah, I used to imagine that. I used to think to myself, where would I go? And I think I used to imagine that because I was a foster child and I am multicultural, multi-ethnic, and I'm a brown-skinned girl growing up in the United States of America, but my parents are not from here, and I don't consider myself really from here the way that people who are indigenous to this land are actually from here. I kind of feel like we're visitors on a permanent visa or an unofficial visa just because we were born here. But do I really feel like I'm from here? Can any of us really say that we're from here if we're not the indigenous people of North America? I don't think so. And so growing up as a kid and as a foster child I really didn't know where I would go. Do I go with all of the Black American people just because due to my skin color, I would be put with all the Black American people? Do I go with all of the Haitian people because I'm Haitian? Even though I don't really feel embraced and Haitian enough by the people who have told me I'm not Haitian enough. Do I go with the Dominican people because I'm Dominican, but I don't feel like I'm Dominican enough? And obviously there's so many Hispanic and Latino people who their idea of a Dominican is a white person, a Spaniard, or someone who doesn't look like me. And so do I go stand with people who wouldn't even really want to stand with me? Not all, but some of them who have the conquistador mentality and not the mentality of the Taino indigenous people who we actually are. All of us Caribbean people, we are the Carib people. Go do your research, a lot of it. That is who we are. Before the African people, before the European people, before the Arabs, before the Asians, our people, our indigenous people, were the Carib people who greeted the conquistadores with the greeting Taino when Christopher Columbus arrived. And it's a term of endearment. It means my heart. my love. It's a term of, it's a greeting. It's a term of endearment. It doesn't, he was not, they were not at all saying that they were the Taino people, but Christopher Columbus took it as that and called our people the Taino people. They are the Carib people, like the Caribbean Sea, the Caribbean islands, and they migrated all the way from South America, all the way to the Greater Antilles and the Lesser Antilles, and they made it all the way to Florida, some of them, but the majority of them settled in the Caribbean islands that we know today, like the Greater Antilles, the island of Hispaniola being the first one, the birthplace of Latin America. And I used to think about stuff like this. I used to research stuff like this as soon as I had access to the computer lab in the 6th grade. And I used to pontificate, like, where do I go? Where do I stand? Who do I belong with? Because I belong in so many categories, yet feel like I belong in none of them at the same time. Because I'm not fully this or fully that. And I may look a certain way, but I don't have the same experiences culturally. I don't have the same cultural upbringing. Caribbean people are not brought up the same way as American people, regardless of your skin complexion. We have totally different cultural values, and our ethnicity, or our ethnic history, our heritage, our lineage, all of that is very different. But that's something I can talk about another time, and for a long time. I will save that for another time. But yeah, I used to wonder, like, where do I go? Who do I stand with? As a foster child, like, if aliens came and told us, like, to go with your people, all the multiracial and multicultural people out here, where do you go? That's what I used to wonder. And honestly, I think that what I have learned ever since I began to pontificate that question is that you go with one another. As multi-ethnic, multiracial people, that is where we belong. It's with one another, instead of trying to impose yourself and insist that you're black, even though you're black and you're white, like, in trying to be with the black people or trying to be with the white people. You can, of course, embrace and befriend whoever you'd like to befriend, right? However, where do you belong, and who are you most similar to in terms of your identity? That would be the other multiracial and other multi-ethnic people, because we are the only people who can relate to being a part of so many spaces, but yet feeling like we're not a part of any of them, because we are not fully those things, or we're not monoracial, we're not monocultural. So even though, yes, you may be I don't know, let's say Peruvian. If you're Peruvian, but you're also Kenyan, there's going to be Peruvian people who will never see you as fully Peruvian. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how well you learn the language. It doesn't matter how many people try to validate your Peruvianness, your Latinidad, whatever, your Caribbeanness and whatever, your race, whatever the case is. No matter what, there's just going to be people who don't see you or see themselves in you and will deny and reject you. And so that's why I've learned to just embrace all that you are, and don't let anybody try to tell you that you are not something that like in your blood, that you are. Just embrace it all, because there is beauty in all of it. There is so much beauty in being able to belong here and belong there and belong there at the same time. Embrace it. Don't be ashamed of it. But yes, the reason I just brought all that up, excuse me, I know that was a bit of a tangent, but the reason I brought that up is because of the last line in this poem, where I say that sometimes something won't be what you need. It'll be someone, because everybody would take somebody over anything. When I used to ask or think to myself, like, where would I go? Who do I stand with? I would also think to myself, would it be better to take something with me or take someone with me? Like, as a part 2 of that question, like, assuming that the aliens are telling us, go stand with your people, and then putting us on different pods and sending us into outer space. I was a child, had a very vivid imagination. So I used to wonder things like this. So yes, I would think, like, if we were all sent into outer space, like, would I grab something, or would I pick someone to go with me? And I taught myself the value of things, or the lack of value of things, versus the value in people, from asking myself that question and realizing that, like I said in the poem, everybody would take something over someone. Now, that's my guess. I'm not really speaking factually. I'm just saying, if tomorrow, right, God forbid, if tomorrow, those aliens that they said were in Miami, yeah, if those same aliens or more were like, okay, like, this has been cute, this experiment in simulation is done, let's go now, like, it's time to go up, let's go. Everybody get in your little pods, go with your people, grab someone who you want to take with you, or grab something that you can take with you. How many of us would actually want to grab a book? Or how many of us would actually want to go grab a piece of chocolate or something like that? Versus how many of us would think of one person that we would rather take with us so that we can remember a bit of our lives as we knew it here as we go on to a new experience. And I started to realize from making that connection that it's the memories that you make with people. Or I shouldn't say, I'll speak for myself because I don't mean to speak as if this is matter of fact. So what I realized for myself is that it's the memories that I make with people that have far more value and that will stick with me throughout throughout the changes that I go through in life, throughout the different chapters in my story. Like, it's not really all the stuff that I get to take with me, the pastel pink shoes, for example, that I'm going to care about when it's all said and done. And even like in the next chapter of my life, it's the moments that I got to make with people. It's the memories that I have with people that I would value more, or that I will value more. Just like if we were to be sent up to the stars to go live, con mis primas, with my cousins, the other stars. I would much rather have someone with me to remember my time here on earth and to feel connected to something. What am I going to do with a book all the way in Mars? What am I going to do? Like, it's like if you put life, I hope this makes sense. Please tell me if this makes sense. If you put life into perspective, think about it. Think about how if things change in a moment's notice, there are not many things that you would cherish and grab for, but there are more people. There are people you would grab for. There are people you would want to bring with you. And when you start to think about stuff like that, just for fun, like just as a hypothetical question, or I don't know, just as, a little mental experiment, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But I think things like that help you to evaluate what is important in your life. Like if today was your last day, what would you be doing right now? Would you be sitting here haciendo algo, haciendo nada? Would you be sitting here like doing something with your life or doing nothing with your life? It's not to pass judgment. I'm just saying, would you want to spend your last moments like chillando, chilling, doing nothing, chilling, doing something, chilling, enjoying yourself, or what? What would you want to do? What would you want to spend your time doing? I used to pontificate. I used to ponder things like that because I had a lot of free time. I spent a lot of time surrounded by people, but feeling awfully alone as a kid. And so things like this were on my mind from time to time, especially that where do I belong? Where do I go question? But yes, I realized that my answer to the question of what would I bring with me if we were to go to space was a person. I wouldn't bring an item. That's what your memories are for. But I would bring a person because I would want to, I think a person and the positive relationship that you have with that person and the memories will be far more valuable as you go through a new chapter in your life than most of the things that you could take with you. So yes, I answered question number 1, which was what is the thing that inspired the poem. And I answered question number 2, the message that I wanted to convey. And in terms of question number 3, how did writing this poem affect your healing journey or impact the healing journey? I would say this impacted it for the better. I think this helped me to see what I value in life. I think it helped me to evaluate what it is. Oh, I said what I value, and then I said evaluate. That's so cute. But yes, I think it helped me to evaluate what was important to me as a kid and compare that to what is important to me now, and even what was important to me when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, writing this poetry collection. In terms of question number 4, what did I learn about myself or in general during the writing process? I would say that I learned what I value. Similarly to the last one, I just learned what it is that's more important to me, and it's the relationship and memories that I make with people, not so much the stuff. It's not the materials, it's not the crap, because that stuff will disintegrate so fast. If these aliens drop something on us, God forbid, like that stuff is so not important. It's important when you have nothing larger to aim for. That's when the stuff, like all the little things, will matter. All the crap that you buy for a sense of instant gratification and as a way to make yourself feel better about the things that you can't actually give yourself. You go buy stuff and try to make yourself feel better because, hey, I can't have what I really want, which is a healthy relationship. Hey, I can't have what I really need, which is good health, optimal health. Hey, I'm not getting what it is that I actually desire. So let me go get this thing off the shelf instead. It'll make me feel good for 5 minutes. That's the mentality I think that a lot of us subconsciously have. But oh yeah, what do I know, right? So anywho, that's pretty much all I have to say for this poem. I don't want this to become too long or just much longer than it already is, honestly. So yes, I would say my words of wisdom and my words of advice is to remember this. Remember that when you start wanting everything, remember that nothing is as it seems. And sometimes something won't be what you need. It'll be someone, because everybody would take somebody over anything. The girls across the street. Thank you so much for listening to this poem series episode. Thank you so much for listening to Things I Never Said. If this is not your first time tuning in, thank you for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the series. Thank you for sharing your testimony in the comment section with other people. Thank you so much for purchasing the poetry collection, which you can do so with the link in the description, by the way. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope that this informed you of something that is helpful, and I hope that it inspired you for the better. But on that note, I will say, tata mi amores. Take care. Mwah.
Gonna give you this mic back, but what I'm gonna say to the ladies that been told that you cannot have, you tell the devil you's a liar.